Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Abbott, and today I'm going to be discussing bioethanol as the biofuel. It's essentially a renewable fuel that plays a pretty major role in reducing fossil fuel usage around the world. I just wanted to highlight the major points that I'm going to be making, which is my introduction, the basics, the fermentation process, distillation process, dehydration, how bioethanol is implemented around the world, and the pros and cons that come with it. So, bioethanol is an alcohol based fuel produced from the fermentation of plant materials. These plants are living, so it is considered a biofuel. The crops used are usually pretty high in sugar and starch, so that includes corn, sugarcane, and wheat, which are most commonly used. And this essentially just helps us reduce our carbon footprint in the transportation world, so meaning cars, buses, motorcycles, anything of that sort. The plants that are used, are cultivated like any agricultural plant. Corn and wheat usually thrive in temperate climates, though, while sugar cane does better in more tropical climates like Brazil. All of these plants use photosynthesis to convert sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into glucose and oxygen. The glucose is basically what turns into ethanol. I wanted to highlight fermentation process because I feel like that is the most important step from what I've learned. When the plants are harvested, the process is to extract all the sugars and starches. The starches are broken down into sugars. Then yeast is added to begin fermentation. Fermentation is basically an anaerobic respiration where sugars are converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide. And after that fermentation, this is what a distillery looks like. The ethanol is distilled and purified to become fuel grade, which means that we can use the product to fuel our cars, buses, anything like that. This process really does mimic natural biological cycles in repurposing carbon. So it is very different from fossil fuels, which release carbons that have been stored for millions of years. So I wanted to talk about carbon footprint as well. Bioethanol is super available and it blends with gasoline in many countries. In the US, all gasoline pretty much contains 10% ethanol, and in Brazil, a lot of vehicles run on pure ethanol. Brazil is a place where sugarcane really does thrive, and it all comes down to the carbon footprint, where bioethanol is a big improvement over gasoline. I see it as a great source that we should implement more. And the plants used to make it absorb CO2 when growing and burning the fuel releases carbon dioxide. The overall cycle is close to carbon neutral because those carbons that are released, since we are increasing the use of plants, they're going to be able to use it to their benefit. The economic impact is that bioethanol has produced the agricultural sector, benefiting lots of money there, especially for corn and sugarcane farmers. There's also a reduction in dependency for imported oil, and this does create jobs, distribution, and research. Governments have promoted its use through incentives, subsidies, and fuel labeling. You'll often see that ethanol blends percentages clearly marked at gas pumps. In Brazil, public awareness campaigns have normalized and the use of ethanol as a daily fuel, especially since the pollution rates have skyrocketed throughout the years. Right now, bioethanol is really helping us reduce emissions and support rural economies, but it's definitely not perfect. There are concerns about food competition and land use. Food competition basically means that the food prices might go up as well, just because they are being used as the biofuel source as well. I would recommend to invest in a second generation ethanol, which uses waste materials in non-food crops. I do see bioethanol using crops as a pretty good resource, but I do see there being a potential issue with increasing food price, increasing water usage for the crops, and the deforestation aspect as well. With the right support, bioethanol could become a mainstream low carbon fuel, especially where electric vehicles are not very practical, like in big cities. I know it would not be very useful to have an electric vehicle. In conclusion, bioethanol is super powerful and a pretty practical step towards cleaner transportation. There are some improvements that need to be made, but I think it can move us towards a very green future, and there could be smart investments and sustainable practices that would help that skyrocket. These are my citations, and thank you so much for listening.